The ultimate upgrade, from zero to cosmic hero in a monster-filled world. Please like, share, and subscribe. Episode 71. Upgrading the 5 internal organs. Red blood. Red like clouds, red like jade, like a gemstone, emitting an amazing breath. This feeling of transformation is evolution. After the blood broke the first limit, Gu Jin did not feel that his strength had been significantly improved, at least not like the feet that could fly when the first limit was broken. Breaking the second limit can teleport. But Gu Jin felt that this upgrade was an improvement in his life level. It felt very strange, but when Gu Jin thought of fierce beasts and monsters, he vaguely understood this feeling. Fierce beasts and monsters are very particular about blood. Blood is the foundation of their power. Everything they cultivate is closely related to blood. Even the potential of blood can determine their achievements. Those with low blood talent will never be able to develop intelligence throughout their lives, just like ordinary beasts, while those with strong blood talent are often born with strong strength, and even if they do not cultivate, their strength will increase at an astonishing rate. The most obvious race is the dragon race, a mythical creature that can be said to be the top existence in blood inheritance. Blood not only contains the talent of the tribe, but also contains inheritance, which makes their continuation and inheritance extremely powerful. Now, Gu Jin feels this trend in his blood. Perhaps, when his blood is upgraded to the extremely high level 437 times, he can evolve extremely powerful strength with blood alone. At that time, there may be a new blood inheritance in the universe, which is Gu Jin's unique blood. After the blood broke the first limit, Gu Jin's next upgrade target was the internal organs. In fact, after upgrading the heart, other internal organs have always been within his upgrade targets, but due to various reasons such as choosing the most suitable one first, it was delayed. Now, it's time to upgrade them. On the 5th day, Gu Jin upgraded the liver. Liver, detoxification, +1. After the upgrade, the liver's characteristic is detoxification. In fact, the functions of various organs in the human body are complex, and they are closely related to each other and affect each other. It forms a large cycle with the whole person. But when it comes to the most significant characteristic of the liver, it is undoubtedly the detoxification function. Detoxification, or more accurately, biological transformation, the liver will thoroughly classify or excrete various toxins, metabolites, and wastes in the human body, thus achieving the detoxification process. After the upgrade, Gu Jin felt a strong energy breath in the liver, which vigorously swallowed various wastes in the body and then decomposed and eliminated them. In an instant, I felt that the whole person was much more ethereal, pure, and thorough. On the night of the 8th day, Gu Jin continued to upgrade the liver. This upgrade will break the first limit of the liver. After the upgrade was completed, the liver also showed new changes. Liver, detoxification, +3, vitality, +1. After the liver broke the first limit, Gu Jin felt the most obvious thing was that there was a huge vitality in the liver, like the morning light penetrating the ancient forest in the morning, making people feel comfortable. This is the attribute of wood. Gu Jin suddenly thought, and then thought of the heart. He suddenly understood that whether it was the heart or the liver, there were magical changes and characteristics in the upgraded place. But when he continued to upgrade step by step and felt the most subtle changes, he found that the various changes and characteristics of the upgrade were actually related to the most essential organs. For example, the heart belongs to fire. After Gu Jin continued to upgrade and broke the second limit, the characteristic of burning flame appeared. The liver belongs to wood, and the detoxification is not visible at the beginning of the upgrade, but after breaking the first limit, the upgrade characteristics appear, and there are signs that it is getting closer to the wood attribute. Perhaps when the liver breaks the second limit, it will be completely revealed. After the liver is upgraded, the aura in the body is also stained with the liver's breath, detoxification characteristics, and rich vitality, with Gu Jin's current spiritual characteristics. If you want to be a doctor, it is undoubtedly very suitable. Or be an alchemist, it will also be of great help in refining repair, detoxification, and life-related elixirs. After the liver broke the first limit, it was already the 22nd day since Gu Jin came to the secret realm, and the time he could stay in the secret realm was 1 month. There are still 8 days. It seems that I can't complete the transformation of my internal organs in the secret realm, and then step into Chingu with the help of rich spiritual energy. Gu Jin stood up and looked at the surging gloomy sky. But he didn't care much about it. During this period of cultivation, his spiritual energy increased at a terrifying rate. Before he came in, the Li Qi song in his body could occupy 10 points of Danyu. And now, in his vast dantian, the spiritual energy surged like a huge wave, filling the huge dantian. Therefore, what prevented him from breaking through Chingu was not that he could not reach the realm, but that he deliberately suppressed it, if he did not want to wait for the internal organs to be upgraded. Now, a thought of his is enough to easily break through. On the night of the 9th day, Gu Jin upgraded his spleen. After the upgrade was completed. Spleen, transformation +1. The main functions of the spleen are filtering, storing blood, and purification. After the upgrade, the ability of transformation is to filter the whole body's blood, spiritual energy, and swallow any impurities in the body, which makes Gu Jin feel that the spleen is extremely capable of carrying responsibility. On the night of the 12th day, Gu Jin upgraded and broke the first limit of the spleen. Spleen, transformation +3, thickness +1. After the heavy characteristic appeared, Gu Jin felt that the feeling of the spleen's bearing became clearer, just like the vast earth, accepting everything, generous and tolerant. And the spleen belongs to the earth. The earth is heavy and bearing. On the 13th day, Gu Jin upgraded the lungs. The lungs are the source of human breathing. After the upgrade was completed. Lungs, clean +1. After the upgrade, the lungs showed the characteristics of purging, which can clean up the waste absorbed by the lungs. Inhale. Gu Jin took a long breath, and suddenly the air was inhaled by Gu Jin like a turbulent river, and at the same time it contained extremely rich spiritual energy. The amount of spiritual energy absorbed in this way can actually be compared to 1/3 of his usual practice with the bodybuilding method. But the bodybuilding method cannot be practiced all the time, but he breathes all the time. The spiritual energy enters the lungs, and there is a faint clanging sound in the lungs, which allows the spiritual energy to be tempered and then integrated into the broad meridians. Gu Jin watched this operation process with surprise. With this characteristic of the lungs, his practice speed was greatly accelerated. The spiritual energy absorbed in a breath is comparable to 1/3 of the spiritual energy absorbed by the bodybuilding method. Then he breathes 3 times, which is equivalent to practicing the bodybuilding method. This is equivalent to him practicing all the time around the clock. On the night of the 16th day, Gu Jin upgraded and broke the first limit of the lungs. Lungs, purging +3, determination +1. Episode 72. Space formation. The new characteristic that appeared after the lungs broke the first limit was sharpness. The sound of the lungs became clearer during breathing, like 2 sharp swords constantly clashing. Especially when he exhaled, the invisible breath actually revealed a sharp feeling. Gu Jin took out a piece of paper for making talismans and placed it in front of his mouth and nose. Huh. Whenever he exhaled gently, the paper was silently shattered and scattered. Gu Jin looked at the flying paper in surprise. Such a sharp feeling was equivalent to being cut by an ordinary sharp blade. Trying to take a deep breath and then exhale with the greatest force, Gu Jin tested the distance and could reach meters away. But this was not the most surprising thing for him. After Gu Jin used the spiritual energy in his body to cooperate with breathing, he found that the effect was extremely amazing. As the spiritual energy cooperated with the exhalation of the lungs, the 2 sharp blades that clashed and clanged seemed to be unsheathed and flew out from his mouth and nose. Puff. The air was torn apart, and a small dark hole appeared quietly on the concrete ground 10 meters away. With mental perception, he found that the small hole was tens of centimeters deep. This was a concrete floor, and he could penetrate tens of centimeters with his breath from a distance of 10 meters. Such an attack force was amazing enough. The most important thing was its secrecy and surprise. Imagine that when the enemy was on guard against the long sword in his hand, he was suddenly pierced through by the sword of lung breath. This was very suitable as a surprise move. When the lungs broke the limit for the first time, it was also the 30th day of his entry. In a few hours, it would be time to leave. It seems that the kidneys can only be upgraded after leaving. Gu Jin patted his kidney position and showed a smile like an old father. He was looking forward to the upgrade of his kidneys. After obtaining the upgrade ability at the beginning, if it were not for the rational suppression, he would probably try to upgrade his kidneys, waist and the pendulum between his legs. Of course, this is not because Shua Jin is weak or born slender and needs to be enlarged. But which man doesn't want to become stronger and stronger? Putting away his thoughts that were jumping again, Gu Jin glanced at the surging gloomy sky. There was no night or dawn here, only this oppressive grayness. Holding the long sword in advance, Gu Jin continued to attack and kill ghosts. Although he has a lot of spiritual tools in his hands after embarking on the road to wealth, and even the existence of top spiritual tools, he is still used to the long sword in his hand. Moreover, those things are not legitimate, and are not very suitable for open use. They are more suitable for surprise attacks from time to time. Gu Jin has not stopped looking for the divine root during this period. Fortunately, with his extensive efforts to search, he can basically find one every day, and more when he is lucky. Now his mental power can cover a radius of 1,200 meters. Coupled with his keenness to ghosts after practicing ghost fog, he can search and kill ghosts at a speed of clearing one area after another. Lag. The long sword is filled with a burning breath, destroying a strange and scary ghost in front of him, and Gu Jin picked up the spiritual crystal on the ground. After estimating the time, he has been killing ghosts for 10 hours in a row. In other words, it is about 10 o'clock in the morning now. The door to the secret realm will open at 8 o'clock this morning, with a 3-hour deadline. If you don't get out after 3 hours, the crack will close again. If you want to get out, wait until the next secret realm opens. Gu Jin took out a spiritual stone that was distributed before he came in. It was engraved with a mysterious formation. This formation had been mastered by Gu Jin in the past few days. It was a special type of advanced formation, a subformation. The spiritual stones in the hands of Gu Jin and many other students who explored the secret realm were engraved with subformations, while the academy had the mother formation in its hands. The device for engraving the mother formation was outside the secret realm. As long as Gu Jin crushed the spiritual stone in his hand, he would instantly appear next to the mother formation device. That's right, this formation also involves the spatial level. Advanced formation talismans, special types of formations, also involve the spatial level. It is conceivable how generous the academy was to take out hundreds of such formation talismans and give them to their students. For formation talismans like this, let alone the price issue, there is no chance to buy them at all. First of all, such formation drawings are definitely kept secret by formation masters, and few people know how to use them. Secondly, there are not many formation masters who can engrave such formations. Not everyone has such talent for the power of space. Therefore, just by looking at the talisman in his hand, Gu Jin knew that the academy must have a great god in formations. It was too scary to make hundreds of talismans of this level and give them to them at once. 0. Ask for flowers. 0. Gu Jin has already memorized the subformation engraved on the spirit stone. Now if he memorizes the mother formation, he can restore the blueprint of this formation. Not to mention selling the talisman after mastering it, this blueprint alone is priceless. Ka. Gu Jin crushed the talisman in his hand, whose value was unknown, and then saw a gorgeous and complex formation blooming in the talisman. The formation runes were like crystals, flowing with purple mysterious brilliance, enveloping Gu Jin. Then, Gu Jin clearly felt the fluctuation of space. The space was broken by the formation, connected to the coordinates, and then carried Gu Jin across the space and disappeared on the spot. Gu Jin clearly witnessed the whole process. After he had the ability to teleport, he had a very keen control over space. 0. The changes in front of him, Gu Jin appeared outside the secret realm. In the deep canyon, the gentle young man who brought them here at the beginning made a seal with one hand to open the space crack, and in the other hand he held a scepter, which was transparent with green bamboo and engraved with brilliant runes. Isn't this the scepter of Mr. Mo? Gu Jin recognized that the green bamboo scepter was the one in Mr. Mo's hand. He often put it aside casually by the other party, and even used it to tease the fallen bamboo leaves. Unexpectedly, the mother array of this space transmission array was engraved on this scepter. The gentle young man smiled at Gu Jin in a friendly way. Gu Jin smiled back and then stood aside. The young man didn't care and maintained the crack with his body and mind. Gu Jin's eyes revealed a mysterious luster to see through the array engraved on the scepter. The mother array is much more complicated than the child array. It took Gu Jin more than an hour to fully remember it. After remembering the mother array, Gu Jin had all kinds of thoughts in his mind. One was the feeling of the mystery of the mother array. Although the sub-array was complicated, Gu Jin could still understand and master it, but the mother array was one level higher than the sub-array. It was obviously a top-level array. The second was the shock of the ghost fog array. After seeing the top-level array, Gu Jin realized that he had greatly underestimated the ghost fog array. Such a magnificent, mysterious, and extremely profound array was definitely not comparable to the top-level array. After the shock came the surprise. After all, if he wanted to, he could deploy the ghost fog array anywhere. The stronger the ghost fog array was, the more beneficial it would be to him. Episode 73. Honest and Cruel. Gu Jin collected his thoughts and looked at the still open space crack in confusion. He was very anxious just now, afraid that the crack would close before he could remember the formation in the scepter. The gentle young man would take the scepter away. Then he would have to find an opportunity to observe it at Mo Lao. But now it is obviously longer than the time limit before entering the secret realm, when they were told that the crack would only last for 3 hours. Gu Jin looked at the young man who maintained the crack, and saw that his face was completely without the gentle smile before, and he was extremely solemn, with cold sweat on his forehead. At the same time, he kept taking out the spirit stone and absorbing the spiritual energy inside to recover. Seeing the appearance of the spirit stone, it was obviously more advanced than the primary spirit stone. Finally, the young man couldn't hold it anymore, so he untied the hand seal and let the crack close. Looking at the gradually disappearing space crack, he sighed softly. His 617 is obviously not in a good state now, and he has to lean on the scepter to borrow strength. Gu Jin also understood. Looking at the number of people who were less than before entering, it was obvious that the young man was trying his best to maintain the crack, hoping that someone else could come out. It stopped only when it reached its limit and could no longer maintain the crack. Gu Jin looked at the time, it was past 12 o'clock. He estimated that 3 hours should be the length of time that the young man could easily maintain the crack. Now he has maintained it for more than 4 hours, which is indeed not easy. Gu Jin looked at the somewhat exhausted young man. Because of the dialysis formation, he was very close to him. Seeing his shaky appearance, he stepped forward to support him. "Thank you." The young man did not refuse, but smiled and thanked him. Then the students left the canyon together. After returning to the square, everyone counted the number of ghosts killed, and then dispersed. "Senior, I'll take you there." Gu Jin supported the young man and said. The other party nodded, then held the scepter and left with Gu Jin's support. "I'm going to go to the book pavilion at the level of nourishing chi first and return the scepter to Mr. Mo." The young man said gently. "Is Mr. Mo in the book pavilion at the level of nourishing chi?" "Yes." The young man nodded, then looked at him in confusion. Gu Jin smiled and said, "I saw him in the book pavilion of the body refining formation department before. No wonder I didn't see him these few times." The young man raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He was a little curious about the junior brother in front of him who had an outstanding appearance and demeanor. Generally speaking, Mr. Mo stayed in the book pavilion, but if he didn't reveal his identity, ordinary people would not recognize him at all. Then he sensed the other party's state of cultivating chi, and Mr. Mo suddenly left the book pavilion of the body refining formation department and went to the book pavilion of the level of cultivating chi, which made him a little curious about the relationship between the two. The two walked and became quiet. Suddenly, Gu Jin said, "Just now, the senior tried his best to maintain the crack, which made me admire him." The young man shook his head when he heard this, and his face was always smiling gently. "No need to admire, no need to thank, in fact, my approach was wrong." "Hmm?" Gu Jin looked at him sideways. The young man smiled bitterly, his eyes revealed helplessness, and sighed, "The world of practitioners is cruel. Ordinary people are powerless and can only go with the flow, while practitioners have the ability to change their own destiny, but they can see more real cruelty. It's hard to say whether it's good or bad, it's just a matter of personal choice." College. The young man paused, looked at the beautiful environment around him, and smiled slightly. This is a place to cultivate practitioners, so that the seedlings can grow and better face the cruel environment. The crack was said to last only 3 hours, so it should have lasted only 3 hours. I delayed, which easily gave other freshmen the illusion that even if it exceeded 3 hours, there was still room for maneuver, which would make them feel lucky when facing various things in the future. The young man looked at Gu Jin, staring. "Today, I am selfish for overtime in order to erase the reluctance in my heart, so you don't need to thank me, let alone admire me." Seeing that Gu Jin seemed to be about to speak, the young man smiled and shook his head. "You may think I am making a fuss, but a tiny seed may grow into a towering tree." Gu Jin felt very strange at this time. Looking at the young man in front of him, he didn't know how to describe the impression of kindness and gentleness at the beginning. In fact, many seniors said that my temperament is not suitable for cultivation and I need to change, but I didn't change. I want to go on more realistically. The young man smiled gently. Gu Jin looked up and looked at the sunshine in the sky that had not been seen for a long time. He said lightly, "Maybe many of the people that senior wanted to wait for overtime died in the hands of other students, such as I.0." The young man saw Gu Jin's gaze and his eyes, and he was a little absent-minded. He suddenly sighed, "Maybe my teacher has always wanted to see your honesty from me." Gu Jin said this without worrying about exposing anything, so that the people he killed would come to him. First, his intuition told him that the young man was not of such a character. Secondly, as a person in the Yangqi realm, it was difficult for people to imagine that he could kill practitioners in the Qinggu realm, let alone kill several people in succession. In addition, there were many people in the Yangqi realm who did not come out of the secret realm, in addition to the Qinggu realm. Even if the young man guessed, he would only think that he killed students in the Yangqi realm. What's more, he was talking about S**X. After sending the young man to the door of the book pavilion, Gu Jin left. He did not go in to see Mo Lao. Since he knew that the other party was here, it would not be difficult to find him in the future. Moreover, his problem of integrating Qiyun had been solved, so there was no need to rush to find the other party. Now, he just wanted to go home and have a good rest and sort out the gains of the secret realm. After returning home, Gu Jin immediately took a comfortable bath. The warm water flushed him, relaxing his tense nerves. After taking a bath, he put on a loose robe. He made a sumptuous meal and opened his spiritual brain to check while eating. He has few friends, and only Ningyu, GCC 2.5, and Limu have sent him messages. Ningyu curiously asked him if he had returned, what was going on in the secret realm, and whether he had gained anything. GCC was concerned about whether he had come out, and replied with a message to report that he was safe. Uncle Limu sent a message more than 10 days ago, saying that he had returned to the Magic City, and then praised him for his recent strength increase, saying that he had prepared a gift for him as a reward. But a few days ago, he sent another message, saying that he had gone out again, and the reward was at home, asking him to pick it up when he was free. Gu Jin sent a message to several people to report that he was safe, but Limu's reply fell on deaf ears. Ningyu curiously asked him about the secret realm, and GCC said that she would cook for him when she was free to celebrate his safe return. While replying to messages and eating a big meal, he browsed various recent news information on the internet. After dinner, Gu Jin lay on a rocking chair in the yard, with a pile of space rings in his hands. Episode 74. Expanding the industry. In addition to the one that Limu gave him, Gu Jin had a total of 5 space rings in his hand, all of which were taken from the hands of people he killed. One was obtained in the wilderness trial from the person who wanted to take his spiritual medicine. The remaining 4 were obtained in this secret realm. They are of different sizes, with the small ones being more than 10 cubic meters and the large ones being dozens of cubic meters. In addition to the rings, the number of primary spirit stones obtained in this secret realm is astonishing. More than 200,000 were found in the space rings of the people who came to assassinate him, plus those of the other 3 people. A full 400,000. And the spirit stones are just a fraction of the harvest. The spirit tools are of astonishing value. 2 top-level spirit tools, Chankuan Compass, Breaking Formation Arrow. High-level spiritual energy, Thorn Spear. Intermediate spiritual energy, Dagger, Long Sword, and 1 defensive guest. In addition, there are exercises, Ba Ti, Suyin Palm, and Shanin Finger. The price of these 3 secret books will not be cheap. Ba Ti is difficult to practice, but the effect is good. Both Suyin Palm and Shanin Finger are exquisite attacking techniques. With the same lineage, the palm and finger can communicate with each other, the progress of cultivation is accelerated, and the enemy is varied. In addition to these, there are many trivial things, such as the spirit crystals he killed in the secret realm, which are more than 3,000, selected and surpassed all students. For those who need it, the price of spirit crystals is high, but it is not easy to find buyers. If these gains are enough to make people ecstatic, then the real big head is shocking. The mysterious ruby necklace of unknown level looks gorgeous, and Gu Jin will not look effeminate when wearing it. The ruby can increase his mental power. After he wore it, the increase reached 50%. In addition, it can speed up his mental power recovery, speed up the speed of mental power cultivation, and resist mental attacks. This is the effect after he wore it. In fact, Gu Jin could not let the ruby recognize the master and bind, so this is only its most superficial ability. In addition, the ruby contains the ghost fog array. In addition to the material gains, Gu Jin's strength also increased terrifyingly in a month. The upgrades of various parts brought powerful changes. With the 12-meter field created by the ghost fog and teleportation, he was confident that he could remain undefeated in the face of a large number of sieges from the ancient realm. Then he could kill them. If he added the bombardment of the talisman, he would be like a bomber now. Moreover, Gu Jin also had a special mother-child space formation in his mind, and a ghost fog formation of unknown level. The value of these 2 formation drawings is absolutely inestimable, especially the ghost formation, which any force wants to have. The effect of protecting its own territory after the arrangement is too strong. He sorted out various things and put them away, and finally sorted out a large pile of things, which he was going to take out and sell in the ancient artifact pavilion. Various materials collected from killing fierce beasts and monsters in the wilderness, and the useless spiritual medicines, pills, and cultivation resources obtained from the enemies. And there are a lot of talismans. Now Gu Jin's mental power is 12 times that before entering the secret realm. 10 talismans and 10 charms can be made in half an hour. If you work nonstop for 6 hours, you can make 120 talismans and charms, and you will still have enough mental strength to spare. What an astonishing number. Now his production efficiency has greatly increased, but he has decided to limit the quantity. 100 talismans a day is enough. He can make more talismans. He can't spend all his time making arrays to make money. Strength is his foundation. He changed into casual modern clothes, looking like an elegant and chic young master of a rich family, and went out to the ancient artifact pavilion. When he arrived at the ancient artifact pavilion, Chen Geng immediately came up to him, made tea, and entertained him. Boss Chen, we have to change our agreement in the future. Gu Jin took a sip of tea and shook his folding fan. Chen Geng was stunned when he heard it, and smiled with relief. It's okay, in fact, I still want to thank you, Mr. Gu, for the income in recent times. I really don't deserve it. Let's not talk about anything else in the future. As long as Mr. Gu lets me help you sell goods, Chen Geng will definitely do his best, and the reward is up to you. Gu Jin could see that Chen Geng was speaking the truth, because ordinary people who wanted to lie in front of him could not be deceived by acting. The eyes that can see through can not only see through the formation, but also see through people's hearts. Nodding with a smile, Gu Jin took out a space ring and handed it to him. This is today's goods. Ordinary people can also use the space ring. After Chen Geng sensed the items in the space, he was shocked and widened his eyes. The value of so many goods was unimaginable to him. In the future, I will give you 100 talismans and 300 talismans every day. As for other things, they will be provided at irregular intervals. As for the pricing, you can adjust it according to the market price and sales situation. I think there are also regular customers during this period. As long as there are discounts, I believe someone is willing to buy, so there is no need to make such a big concession. Chen Geng nodded repeatedly after hearing this. He has a good business mind. Every time Gu Jin came, he only saw things sold out and earned spirit stones, but he didn't know that he was promoting the operation with various strategies. Gu Jin took a sip of tea and looked at Chen Geng. In the future, this store will be managed by you. You will get 1,000th of the monthly sales. Chen Geng was shocked when he heard this, and was frightened by Gu Jin's generosity. In the past, he sold a talisman for more than 1,000 to more than 2,000, and he could get 10 spirit stones for selling one. It seems that the income from 1,000 pieces has been greatly reduced. In the past, Gu Jin only sold a few talismans every 960 days, which is nothing compared to the current 100 pieces a day. Not to mention other things, just selling 100 talismans a day, he can earn a lot after selling them. Mr. Gu, isn't this too much? You don't have to give me a share, just pay me a little salary every month. Chen Geng said hurriedly, not at all like a profiteer when Gu Jin first met. Gu Jin smiled and shook his head. Boss Chen, this business is not easy to do. I don't trust you to let anyone take care of it casually in your position, but I trust you. I don't want him to suffer a loss either. Before, Gu Jin had always paid attention to Chen Geng, and was considering him. Unexpectedly, Chen Geng, who looked like a profiteer, attached great importance to the word faith. He is profit-driven and has numerous tricks, but he is also trustworthy. He may buy things at a high price, but he will never buy fake things for you. What Gu Jin likes more is that he doesn't believe that no one will ask Chen Geng for his information, but Chen Geng can keep his mouth shut, which is what he values most. Moreover, once the number of talismans sold in the ancient artifact pavilion increases, it will definitely attract the attention of many people, and some people will be unable to resist making plans. This is why Gu Jin said that this position is not easy to sit in, and not everyone can sit in it. Chen Geng is capable and trustworthy, so Gu Jin will certainly not be stingy with that little bit of profit. Episode 75. Upgrading the kidneys. After Gu Jin instructed Chen Geng on his work, he took him to a famous restaurant for dinner. From the moment he left the restaurant, Gu Jin discovered that Chen Geng's attitude had changed. If he had been a partner in the past, now when walking on the road, Chen Geng would consciously slow down by half a step. This was not because he was in awe of the cultivator, but because he truly put aside his status and became a subordinate of Gu Jin. After dinner, he returned to the ancient artifact pavilion, drank some tea, and then left. As they walked, they came to the coffee shop of GCC. At this time, night fell. Gu Jin stood under the big tree in the park, looking at the small wooden building dotted with dim lights. In addition to the main support, the large floor-to-ceiling glass of the wooden building makes it easy to see the scene inside. Outside the small building are various flowers and plants. It can be seen that the owner takes good care of them. In the coffee shop, several employees are busy greeting customers. Gu Jin saw GCC concentrating on making coffee behind the bar. She is elegant, gentle, yet charming. But Gu Jin saw that her face was not very good and she looked a little haggard. Maybe she was too busy recently. In fact, it is unfortunate for a woman like GCC. As an ordinary person, if you have an ordinary appearance, you will live an ordinary life. However, she has a beautiful face like a disaster, but she is an ordinary person who cannot practice. Her qualifications cannot be improved even with rare treasures. This makes her unable to be with ordinary people, because no one can bear the halo on her. But she is a person of high status. Expensive, but will not really treat her wholeheartedly, because she can't practice. Compared to the long years of practitioners, she can only live for more than 100 years. Those who pursue her madly are just attracted by her appearance and figure. They may love her, but it is difficult to last. Even if there is a true love for her, it will not change for a lifetime. But 100 years will pass in the blink of an eye, and when she leaves, it will only hurt those who love her. Therefore, ordinary people who can grow old together cannot choose, and most of those who can choose do not really love her, and those who can choose and love her, she does not want to hurt. Gu Jin's eyes rarely show pity. People like him who are casual, free, and easy, will make people feel that they are easy to approach, but they can't really understand, because no matter what he looks at, he is lazy and casual. No matter what he faces, he is also free and easy. And how can we understand him if we can't see the depths of his casual eyes? Flutter, flutter, flutter. Suddenly, there was a sound of flapping wings, and a black shadow flew out of the garden and flew towards Gu Jin. He raised his hand and saw the black shadow land on his fingertips. This is a very beautiful bird, with black feathers flowing with mysterious brilliance, emerald eyes looking at Gu Jin smartly, feathers on his head like a crown, and a long tail at the tail. It looks like a black phoenix, noble and charming. The bird is very small, just a little bigger than an ordinary sparrow, and its long tail is several times its body. This bird is raised by GCC, called K. It is a rare bird and very famous. If we rank the strength of birds, beasts, and monsters, K is at the bottom, because its strength is no different from that of the sparrow in the previous life. Don't. But if we simply rank the appearance, the bird has always been the second. So many girls like to raise them. The bird is hostile to strangers, and basically will not get close to anyone except the owner, so raising it needs to start from childhood before it opens its eyes. But surprisingly, this bird is close to Gu Jin, which surprised GCC for a long time. After playing with the bird for a while, Gu Jin raised his hand, go back. Then walked towards home. The emerald eyes of the bird looked at him for a while, then flapped its wings and went back, landing on GCC's shoulder. Where are you from? GCC tilted her head and smiled while drinking coffee. The voice of the bird is very pleasant, like the rhythm of a clear stream, chirping and shaking its head to look out the French window. GCC looked in the direction and saw Gu Jin's figure gradually disappearing in the darkness. Gu Jin had just left the coffee shop not far away when he received a message and opened his spiritual brain to look. You didn't even say hello to your sister when you passed by, and then you added a dog-patting expression. Remember to be on time tomorrow, with a smile. Seeing the message, Gu Jin couldn't help but laugh and replied with a okay. GCC said that she would cook tomorrow, in addition to fulfilling her previous promise to treat her to a meal, to celebrate the safe return to the secret realm. After all, many people died in the secret realm this time. Of course, many people died, just 4 people died at the hands of Gu Jin. After returning home, Gu Jin began to engrave talismans and draw talismans. At his current production speed, he completed tomorrow's sales in the early hours of the morning. Then he started to upgrade. After many upgrades, Gu Jin gradually became calm about the upgrade, but this time, he felt that his lost enthusiasm was back. Looking at the position of his kidney, Gu Jin patted it gently. Be sensible. After giving some instructions, Gu Jin issued an upgrade command. Boom. The energy exploded at his waist, and the surging energy swept through, transforming his kidneys. The upgrade process had just begun, and Gu Jin had an unprecedented change. After seeing the change, he was glad that he did not choose to upgrade lying on the rocking chair in the yard today. After returning home, Gu Jin changed into a thin and loose clothes. The kind of uncontrollable blood and surging energy was extremely amazing. After a moment, when the upgrade was completed, Gu Jin was a little bit amused. What to do? After the kidney upgrade, his vitality is now surging and can't be suppressed at all. Finally, it was only after he was calm in the state of Qingming that he calmed down. Pulling back his wandering thoughts, Gu Jin looked at the situation after the kidney upgrade. Kidney, vigorous, +1. Seeing this feature, Gu Jin pursed his lips and nodded in agreement, almost giving a thumbs up. The vigorous feature makes him energetic and greatly improves his endurance. Now Gu Jin's full strength burst is terrifying, and the kidneys can provide him with vigorous energy to support more sustained output. This situation applies whether he is standing, lying, walking, or running. After the upgrade was completed, Gu Jin began to practice. After the kidney broke the first limit and the aura was permeated with the characteristics of the kidney, he would break through the realm of nourishing the aura and step into the ancient times. At this time, the aura in his dantian was extremely amazing in both quantity and quality. The quantity was probably dozens of times that of the top level of ordinary nourishing aura. The quality was even more terrifying because it integrated so many characteristics and lasting tempering. Episode 76. The strongest skills. The next day, Gu Jin woke up from his practice and felt the fullness of his dantian, which had obviously reached its capacity limit. This was very amazing. After his dantian had the vast attribute, it was dozens of times larger than that of the ordinary qi cultivating realm, and it was actually filled in a short time. Wash up and go to school. First, he went to the ancient artifact pavilion to hand over the talisman to Chen Geng. He could see that the empty ancient artifact pavilion had changed a lot, and was filled with various beast materials, spiritual medicines, elixirs, etc. The most important thing was the talisman, placed in the core and conspicuous place. Obviously, Chen Geng was very busy yesterday and arranged it overnight. When passing by the coffee shop, he saw GCC's elegant and charming figure, handed breakfast to Gu Jin, asked him to study hard, and then went back to the coffee shop to work. At the pavilion in the lake, Gu Jin attracted everyone's attention after his arrival. Everyone found that Gu Jin, who had not seen him for a long time, seemed to be stronger again. They could not feel Gu Jin's strength, but the invisible sense of oppression was emitted from the bones and hit their hearts directly. Seeing everyone's attention, Gu Jin smiled, as a greeting to his dear classmates whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Seeing him smile, everyone 827 had to smile back, although the smile was a bit awkward and ugly. Sitting down to eat breakfast, looking at the lake and mountains, Gu Jin thought that he might have to say goodbye here in a few days. After he broke through to Qinggu, he certainly wouldn't stay here to waste time. Alas, this class of classmates just started to smile at me, and they are leaving. Gu Jin's thoughts were scattered. The rest of the students surrounded Qingrui and the other two to ask about the secret realm. They all had more or less scars on their bodies, which were all caused by encountering ghosts. It's not that the ghosts are so powerful. Even if they are ghosts in the Qinggu realm, Qing and others can still escape. After all, when ghosts are in the Qinggu realm, they still have territorial instincts and hazy intelligence. Only when they reach a higher realm will they truly wake up and regain their sanity. That's when the ghosts are terrifying, and all kinds of weird methods can make people lose without fighting. For example, Qingrui and the other two, the injuries on their bodies were caused by themselves when they were frightened by the ghost and fled. The bell rang, Suing arrived and began to lecture. Gu Jin made rapid progress and was extremely talented. Even the people present were geniuses. Qingrui was even a top-level genius, and many of his talents surpassed Suing. But they all listened carefully. Because the experience that Suing spoke in plain language was earned through blood and sweat, which could help them avoid many setbacks and take fewer detours. After class, everyone dispersed. In the ancient artifact pavilion, Gu Jin sat on a chair, sipping tea and browsing the spiritual brain, while Chen Geng waited on him and entertained guests from time to time. Gu Jin was reading about the introduction of various professions of practitioners. In addition to the formation master, there were also the alchemist and the weapon refiner. He now has a comprehensive talent of the demon level. The talents of alchemy and weapon refinement are both demon level. If they are just ignored, it would be too wasteful. Of course, human energy is limited. No matter how high his comprehension is, his time is also limited. Now his daily schedule is full. If he gets involved in alchemy and weapon refining, it will probably delay other things. Gu Jin has only a rough understanding now, and will develop it when there is an opportunity in the future. As one of the three rich professions on par with the array master, Deputy Chen and the alchemist are also not short of money. They are also professions that burn money, and even burn more money than the array master. Alchemist, weapon refiner. You always need to keep refining alchemy and weapon refinement to make progress, so the materials for alchemy and weapon refinement are free? Even if the materials for primary elixirs and spiritual weapons are relatively cheap, a little bit adds up to a lot. These two professions are really not something that ordinary people can afford. Even in the academy, those who choose these two professions are all rich people, and they are really rich. Because studying in the academy is free, such as Gu Jin who has never paid tuition, the academy can provide ordinary resources for free, but the materials for alchemy and refining are bottomless pits. A group of students have consumed a lot of materials and resources to become talents, and a new group has arrived. No matter how deep the foundation of the academy is, it can't bear it. Therefore, the alchemy and refining departments of the academy will provide elixir formulas and methods of refining spiritual tools, etc., and the instructors will do their best to explain and pass on. But you have to buy the materials yourself. Therefore, only the real rich people will train refiners and alchemists. The probability of these two professions appearing among civilians is extremely small. Unless you really have outstanding talents, you will be accepted as a disciple or rely on a family. After retracting the spiritual brain and taking a sip of tea, Gu Jin had a general understanding of the two professions. In fact, compared with the way of formation, he really didn't care so much about refining tools and alchemy. Because he himself has mastered the invincible method of refining weapons and alchemy. Is there any weapon refiner in the world who can refine rotten wood into spiritual weapons? Is there any alchemist in the world who can refine weeds into elixirs? No. But Gu Jin can. Because he has the talent for upgrading. As long as he keeps getting stronger, he can make his upgrading ability stronger. Not only can he upgrade his body, but he can also upgrade external objects. At that time, even an ordinary elixir can be upgraded and its quality can be improved. Ordinary iron weapons can also be upgraded into spiritual weapons. Such means are beyond the reach of alchemists and refiners. Now, Gu Jin should still focus on improving his cultivation realm. It was already dark, and it was almost time for Gu Jin and GCC to make an appointment. GCC personally cooked for him to have dinner today, but not at her house, but at a coffee shop. The coffee shop is a 2-story wooden building. The second floor is used to store materials, lounge and office. It is fully furnished with a kitchen and rooms. GCC would rest here when she was too busy late. When he arrived at the coffee shop, there was a sign for rest at the door. When he pushed the door open, Gu Jin saw the ink flying over with feathers on the wooden frame. It made a clear and pleasant sound, circled around him a few times, and then landed on his shoulder. Is Gu Jin here? Come up to the second floor. GCC's voice came from the second floor. Gu Jin responded, nodded the little head of the ink, and came to the second floor. The rich smell of food came, which made Gu Jin look forward to it. GCC was wearing a white home dress, slippers, and her long hair was raised, which made her enchanting temperament fade a little and add a touch of gentleness and virtue. Sit down, there is only one more dish. GCC put down the plate in her hand, and then hurried back to the kitchen. Gu Jin looked at the table. There were already several dishes on it. They were all very homely dishes, but Gu Jin's appetite was opened when he saw them. Episode 77. GCC's strangeness. Okay, let's eat, they are all ordinary home-cooked dishes. GCC brought out the last dish, smoothed a strand of hair hanging by her ear, and exuded a special kind of virtuousness and charm. Why are you looking at me like that? Feeling Gu Jin's gaze, GCC raised her eyes to look at Gu Jin while drinking the soup, and handed him the bowl. The moment when she lowered her head slightly and suddenly raised her eyes, Gu Jin had to admit that it really touched his heart, just like looking back at the end of the lamp. Gu Jin's mouth drew a soft arc, took the soup, drank a sip, and praised, "It tastes good." "It's good as long as you don't dislike it." GCC smiled gently. 4 dishes and 1 soup, under the dim and slightly drunken light, the two sat opposite each other. GCC had a small appetite, and stopped eating after drinking a bowl of soup and a small half-bowl of rice. Most of the food was taken care of by Gu Jin. With his current cultivation, the energy brought by food is actually far less than the absorption of spiritual energy. It is already possible to achieve fasting. But the desire for food is still retained by most practitioners. Seeing that Gu Jin had finished all the dishes, GCC smiled happily and put away the dishes. Gu Jin was drinking tea in the living room and teasing Yin, while GCC was washing dishes in the kitchen, and the two chatted in their spare time. Inexplicably, Gu Jin actually felt a kind of feeling that he had not felt for many years. The feeling of home he had never been to before. What surprised him even more was that the one who gave him this feeling would be a woman like GCC who was a disaster. I have to say that today, the other party made him feel an unprecedented touch. After a while, GCC finished washing the dishes, wiped her hands and walked out of the kitchen, sitting on the sofa next to him, leaning on her body, always seducing her elegant and intellectual style. Her long legs were slanted under her skirt. Gu Jin estimated that GCC was about 1.78 meters tall, with amazing long legs, and her white jade-like skin seemed to glow. Gu Jin glanced at GCC and then retracted his eyes, looking at the lazy and graceful GCC and wondering, are you busy recently? Or are there any troubles? I see that you look a little haggard. As the words were asked, Gu Jin clearly saw the fear flashing in GCC's misty eyes. It was a fear revealed from the bottom of her heart. It was hard to believe what would make the other party look like this. GCC supported her head with one hand, her smile revealed a pitiful weakness, and shook her head and said, I don't know why, I haven't rested well recently, and I often have nightmares. Nightmare? Yes, it's very real, so real that I can still remember the creepy and gloomy feeling after I wake up. GCC unconsciously hugged her hands, her eyes dilated, as if she thought of something horrible, then suddenly trembled, came back to her senses, and lowered her head in silence. Gu Jin frowned in confusion. It is normal for ordinary people to have nightmares, but nightmares that can make people so deeply afraid are thought-provoking. He wondered if it was man-made. There are too many means for practitioners, just like Gu Jin. It is too easy for him to make ordinary people have nightmares. The pure mental power invading the other party's brain is not something that ordinary people can resist. If the ghost fog is used, even the practitioners can hardly bear it. But after Gu Jin's mental power perception, he did not find any breath related to illusion. It stands to reason that it is definitely not easy to hide it from him after mastering the ghost fog. Is it a psychological problem? How about I accompany you to go out for a walk tomorrow? Maybe it will be better. Gu Jin asked softly. GCC raised her head, her glass-like eyes looked at him, with a smile, and a gentle voice sounded, are you asking me out? Seeing that the other party was still in the mood to tease him, Gu Jin rolled his eyes imperceptibly. Okay, where are we going? I haven't been out for a long time. GCC covered her mouth and smiled, her eyes showing anticipation. How about going to the beach? Gu Jin thought for a while and said. Okay. GCC agreed. After that, the two chatted for a while, and GCC packed up and planned to go home. She lived in a community not far from the cafe. Gu Jin sent her downstairs and watched her figure enter the building but did not leave, but spread her mental power. With his mental power that can instantly cover a radius of 1,200 meters, plus the ruby amplification, it can reach 1,800 meters. He could clearly see GCC taking the elevator to the 32nd floor, but when she stood in front of her house, she hesitated with the key in her hand, which could be felt from her expression. She was afraid, as if there was something she was afraid of incurring. But Gu Jin's mental power could not sense any strange breath in the house. After seeing GCC enter the house, he withdrew his mental power. He did not dare to spread his mental power into the house, because such a house is arranged with a formation to prevent detection. If his mental power invades the interior of a private house, it will trigger the formation, and then the law enforcement officers will come. He does not want to go to the cell for a day trip. Such a formation is to protect the privacy of ordinary people. Otherwise, ordinary people like GCC will be exposed when facing a practitioner with mental power like Gu Jin. You can see the other person's living conditions at any time, including bathing and changing clothes. Of course, ordinary people cannot attract the attention of the practitioners in the Chingu realm or above, just like a woman like GCC, who is stared at by countless green eyes. 0. If the formation is not set up, I am afraid that the housing prices in this community will rise rapidly, just to be able to witness the beautiful scenery. At this time, a man in uniform came over, and Gu Jin recognized that he was a member of the Magic City Law Enforcement Army. In addition to the three armies, the Magic City also has a law enforcement army, which is under the Law Enforcement Department and is responsible for maintaining public order. It is said that most of the people in the Law Enforcement Army are alone, impartial, and only act according to the law. Once, the head of the Magic City got angry and accidentally destroyed public property. Then he was arrested by the head of the Law Enforcement Department and locked up for days. So most people stay away from this army. The young man was not as scary as the rumor said, and asked politely, Miss G's friend? Gu Jin nodded. In fact, we have learned about her situation. At that time, Miss G suspected that there was a ghost disturbing her, but we did not find any abnormal situation after investigation, and she did not have the breath of illusion. Recently, colleagues from the Law Enforcement Department have been patrolling the community, but no trace of ghosts has been found. So, this is probably a psychological problem. You are her friend, so you should give her more advice. After the other party finished speaking, Gu Jin smiled and said, Thank you. The young man nodded, then left, hiding in the darkness. Fate will realm. Gu Jin looked at the other person's disappearing back, silently thinking in his heart, glanced at GCC's lighted room, and then left. Episode 78. Nightmare at night. The night was as deep as water, and the neighborhood was quiet and silent, with only the occasional coolness and noise brought by the night breeze. After taking a shower, GCC locked the door, then wrapped herself in the quilt, curled up in a protective position. All the lights inside and outside the room were turned on, illuminating the elegant and simple bedroom, but the familiar environment did not make GCC feel the slightest warmth, but a chill in her heart. She lay there, a little tired, her hazy eyes were about to close, but she insisted on staying awake, not daring to let herself fall asleep, because the scene she saw after falling asleep. Too scary. Tick. Tick. The sound of the clock moving rang in the silent bedroom, like a knock on GCC's heart, making her curl up again, and even trembling faintly. Time was passing. GCC did not let herself fall asleep, but it was difficult to 800 resist the waves of strange sleepiness. She was always wandering in confusion, and her whole state became trance. Finally, her eyes slowly closed and never opened again. After falling asleep, GCC curled up with her hands gathered in front of her, tightly grasping the edge of the quilt, and she looked helpless. Duh. Suddenly, a sound different from the clock sounded, like the sound of bare feet stepping on the wooden floor. Duh. Da-da. The footsteps suddenly sounded rhythmically, as if someone was jumping barefoot, making people feel full of energy and vitality. However, the direction from which the footsteps came was outside the empty bedroom door. Duh. Da-da. The jumping footsteps changed in weight, lingering outside the bedroom door, as if jumping from left to right, and then from right to left, tirelessly and happily, like a naughty child playing a prank. GCC, who was in a trance, suddenly trembled her eyelashes. She heard the familiar ballad ringing in her ears again, and the beautiful female voice exuded an incomparable charm, but it was also terrifying. GCC couldn't help shaking, and suddenly opened her eyes, awakened by the ballad. Duh. Duh. The footsteps sounded, and GCC's empty eyes shook, revealing panic, fear, and helplessness. Here it comes again, that nightmare comes again, clinging to her tightly, unwilling to let her go. Why? Why? GCC, who was usually gentle and elegant, and whose every move revealed a classical temperament, now covered her head with the quilt and roared hysterically in her heart. She didn't understand why she was entangled by such a thing. The pressure of many days made her mind on the verge of collapse at any time. Outside the door, the footsteps were still jumping, but suddenly, the rhythm of the footsteps changed, and the footsteps that wandered left and right stopped in front of the door. Duh. The footsteps jumped more and more vigorously, as if someone was jumping in place outside the door, trying to touch something high. Duh. The jumping sounds rang out one after another, hitting GCC's heart hard, causing her body covered in the quilt to tremble even more violently. Duh. Suddenly, after a powerful jump, everything suddenly calmed down, and the bedroom suddenly fell into a strange silence. GCC, who had been paying attention to the movement outside the door, calmed down the panic in her heart. Listen carefully. The footsteps outside the door seemed to have left. GCC carefully lifted the quilt and looked out through the gap in the quilt. Her eyes were shaking, revealing a strong sense of uneasiness. Her sight slowly drifted towards the door. When she saw the scene in front of her eyes widened, her pupils shrank, and a look of fear was all over the place, almost overflowing. It was a pair of eyes that were almost desperate. The closed bedroom door opened. Whoosh! GCC sat up, her wavy long hair was scattered, the shoulder straps of her nightgown slipped off, revealing her delicate collarbone, and the morning light was cast on her, making her transparent skin as dazzling as glowing. The whole person exuded an amazing hazy beauty. But her eyes shattered the beautiful picture. The amber glass eyes deeply revealed fear, panic, confusion, helplessness. The almost hysterical despair made people unforgettable after just one look. The wind swayed the white gauze curtains, making the light and shadow mottled. GCC's empty eyes swayed, gradually focused, and then came back to her senses and woke up. GCC looked out the window. The bright sunshine was a little dazzling, but it still made her feel cold. She couldn't help but curl up and hug her legs, with her chin on her knees, like a kitten abandoned in the corner of the alley on a rainy night. After a moment, GCC took a deep breath, then slowly exhaled, and got up to wash point zero. The warm water flowed down from her delicate features, the steam spread, blurring the surroundings, and the cold sweat all over her body was washed away, making her tense mind relax slightly. She blew her hair dry, picked a white gauze blue knee-length skirt, her long wavy hair was lifted up, fresh and elegant, and then she took a white wide-brimmed hat and put it on. She looked extremely elegant and refined, and Tianfen was dressed for the beach. She wore a pair of simple slippers, and her toes were decorated with pink and purple nail polish. Even though she wore slippers and did not increase her height, her tall model height was enough to move people. When she came downstairs, Gu Jin's casual figure was already waiting. The moment she saw him, GCC showed a gentle and soft smile, and it was completely impossible to tell that she had experienced a terrible nightmare last night. "Good morning." Gu Jin smiled and greeted, and then looked at GCC's outfit. Compared with the usual elegance, intelligence, capable and mature, today was very fresh. "Today's outfit suits you very well." "Thank you." GCC pressed down the brim of the hat that was lifted by the wind with one hand and said with a smile. The changes on the earth over the past 2,000 years have changed the topography of the Magic City. The most obvious is the long and winding coastline, which makes the Magic City always threatened by the sea, leading to the construction of the Killing Wall. There are also many amazingly beautiful beaches. In the early days of the invasion of fierce beasts and demons, these beaches were extremely dangerous forbidden areas, but as humans gained a foothold in the battle and began to fight back in 3.1, the coastline of the Magic City was recaptured and expanded outward, occupying part of the sea area. Although this part of the sea area is inconspicuous compared to the vast sea, it also gives the Magic City a buffer when facing the threat of the ocean, and also makes many beautiful beaches a place for leisure and relaxation. Gu Jin and GCC took the train to the coastal area. The closer they got to the sea, the more they could feel the majesty of the Killing Wall. Looking up, they reached the sky. Along the way, the two of them attracted the attention of everyone around them like a huge beam of light. There was no way, the appearance and demeanor of the two people were too eye-catching. When approaching the Killing Wall, Gu Jin looked through his eyes and could see the intricate and subtle mysterious runes on the wall. Unfortunately, since the formation was not activated, he could not see the complete formation. Otherwise, this would be his free formation extraction site. Episode 79. Sea Beast Invasion. Walala. The blue sky and white clouds, the sound of the waves, the fine white sand, emitting a dazzling brilliance in the sun, the eyes are pierced by the sparkling light of the sea and the golden light of the sand, and it is difficult to open them. The end of the world. The most famous beach in the Magic City, the sea water is pure and the sand is flawless. There are cliffs on both sides of the beach, and the top of the cliff is covered with green flowers. It is such a beautiful picture. It is hard to believe that there is a crisis that can erupt at any time in this pure and blue sea. There are many people on the beach, the gauze is swaying, and all kinds of colorful swimsuits are eye-catching. Gu Jin and GCC came to the beach, feeling the breeze, and the whole person couldn't help but relax. This is the first time he has come to the beach in this life, and the scenery is really pleasing to the heart. The two strolled on the beach. GCC was barefoot and tested the edge of the sea. Chasing as the waves receded, turning around and running when the waves came, the white skirt swaying, pressing the brim of the hat, and the charming face showed a thorough smile. Seeing GCC showing her childlike innocent side, Gu Jin unconsciously smiled. The two strolled in the sun for a while, then went to a shop by the beach to buy a drink and smoothies, and lay down on the sun loungers, enjoying the leisure time. "I haven't had so much fun in a long time." GCC smiled gently while eating smoothies. Gu Jin looked at her face, lowered his head and lightly held the smoothies. A strand of hair fell from the brim of his hat, and his amber eyes were as transparent as glass under the light. He couldn't help but reach out. GCC raised her eyes and looked at him quietly. Gu Jin stroked her drooping hair, then showed a casual and soft smile, and was about to speak. "Woo woo woo." A harsh sound rang out, and the originally relaxing and comfortable beach was suddenly shrouded in a solemn atmosphere. Sea beast attack. GCC put down the sand ice and looked at the sea. It was still calm, but she knew that a sea beast had touched the formation arranged in the sea area, and the formation had not been completely intercepted. The subsequent army did not completely clean up. As a result, the sea beast broke through the defense line and entered the sea area within the defense range. Such a situation is rare. Although the defense force will be dispersed due to the long coastline, the defense strategy for the sea area is to be alert as soon as possible. Once there is a situation, support will be provided immediately to reduce the number of garrisons. But even if it is stationed at any place, the strength is not weak. In addition to strength, a large number of sea beasts are required to break through the defense line. The attack of the sea beast made the atmosphere on the beach depressing, but no one screamed or fled frantically. Everyone calmly put away their smiles, just like hearing that the amusement park is about to close and asking tourists to leave. They began to leave the beach in an orderly manner and enter the land defense line. For more than 2,000 years, humans have long been accustomed to fighting and killing anytime and anywhere, not only practitioners, but also every ordinary person. Ordinary people retreated, and a black spot appeared in the sky from afar. The sea was also illuminated by the magnificent light. The huge formation was activated, and the mysterious formation pattern flowed with brilliance. Let's leave too. GCC said softly, still gentle and intellectual, without any panic. Del. Gu Jin nodded and took GCC away. After sending her to the land defense line, he walked to the beach again. Be careful. GCC did not stop him, but warned him. In the face of the invasion of fierce beasts and demons, nearby practitioners consciously tried their best to resist. This is an unwritten rule of the demon city. It depends on the temperament of the practitioners. It is okay if they don't take action. Students of the Demon City Cultivation Academy need to find the garrison in the invaded area when facing an invasion. If the garrison needs them to help, they must fight. If the situation is beyond their ability, they will be asked to evacuate. This is also an appeal regulation, not a law, so there will be no punishment for not complying. Gu Jin smiled back at GCC, and then walked towards the garrison. It can be seen that many people, like him, began to meet at the garrison after escorting the people around them to the defense line. They looked at each other, without communication, but just nodded. Although they are all strangers, they may be comrades in life and death in the future. The garrison was located on the cliffs on both sides. Gu Jin rushed to the nearest one. With his speed, he came to the bottom of the cliff in an instant, and his feet lightly jumped into the air. He climbed up the cliff hundreds of meters in an instant. The top of the cliff was very wide, with soft green grass and flowers on the ground. On the edge of the cliff was a majestic defense tower. The cannon engraved with complicated formations exuded a strong breath of destruction. The garrison commanded in an orderly manner. When they arrived, the commander had already sensed it and did not show up. The voice sounded directly in their ears. Leave below Chenggu, of course, those who are competent can decide to stay. Remember, do what you can. The solid voice came into his ears. Gu Jin raised his eyebrows. Leave below Chenggu, alas, isn't this talking about him? Originally, Gu Jin was still considering whether to leave. Would leaving make people feel unconfident? Before he could make up his mind again, the sea in the distance suddenly exploded and shattered, and a tsunami of hundreds of meters was set off, and then it was shattered and turned into huge pieces of water falling down. The waves were startled. The wave swept in, gradually pushed up, and then 587 turned into a 100-meter tsunami. If the tsunami hit the beach, this beautiful painting spot would probably disappear. The huge energy fluctuation spread, and Gu Jin, who was looking down from a high place, clearly saw huge formations emerging in the sea, and the formations formed an unshakable aura. Boom! There seemed to be an invisible wall in the void, and the tsunami was blocked, making a deafening noise, and then it poured back. Then, one after another, figures stood in the air, exuding a powerful aura. Hold on! A heavy voice rang out, followed by the army's blood-boiling uniform shouts. Gu Jin, who was still thinking about trouble, had a Qingyu ancient sword in his hand, and suddenly felt that it seemed good to earn some military merits. Roar! A thunderous roar rang out, and huge beasts came densely, as if dyeing the sea black. There was no extra circling, and the fight started directly. The whale, which was tens of meters tall, had red eyes and opened its mouth to swallow the sky. The black shark was hundreds of meters long and its teeth were as sharp as spiritual weapons. The fishman who came over the waves held a trident in his hand and commanded his subordinates. Boom! A 1,000-meter-long red knife light slashed across the sky, emitting terrifying heat. Even the sea was boiling and rolling. The whale, which was hundreds of meters tall, was torn apart, and then its flesh and blood burned, and its skeleton was charred. Episode 80. Military merits and defensive formations. Gu Jin looked at the shocking scene in front of him. The giant whale was at least a high-level beast, but it was torn and burned by the sword light that came from nowhere. Then the practitioners in the air took action one after another. Spiritual weapons broke through the air, the sword light was sharp, the spear pierced, the palm print suppressed, and the fist was sharp. The spiritual energy in this vast sea was disordered, and the void seemed distorted, as if the space was about to be broken. The powerful beasts were intercepted and killed, and then a large number of low-level and intermediate beasts broke through the defense line. #9. The voice that just notified Chenggu to evacuate sounded in everyone's ears, and then the army was seen going out in an orderly manner, but the practitioners and college students who took action on their own seemed chaotic. No wonder Chenggu and others left. It turned out that the beasts that were put in were all primary and intermediate beasts. Gu Jin jumped down from the cliff, surrounded by practitioners and students at or above Chenggu level. When they were about to land on the sea, most people stepped on the void, the air exploded, and the sea surface exploded, but it also stopped their downward momentum, and then stepped on the air again, suddenly turning into a phantom and attacking the beast. These are all practitioners in the Chingu realm, and the life will practitioners above Chingu, and even higher realms, have the ability to fly, crossing the void like immortals, ethereal and light. Gu Jin did not expose his ability to fly, but like other Chingu realms, he stepped on the air with a momentary explosive force to gain a short-term flying ability. With his current speed of 17 times the speed of sound, which exceeds the speed of most Chingu realm practitioners, he stepped on the air with a bang, and his figure disappeared out of thin air. When he reappeared, he was already in front of an octopus sea beast that was more than 10 meters long. KYY. The long sword hummed and broke through the air, leaving intertwined green traces in the void, and then he disappeared again. Puff. After Gu Jin left, the 8 huge tentacles of the octopus broke, and the head split from it. However, one of the tentacles was taken away by Gu Jin, first as a proof of military merit, and secondly, he wanted to taste seafood. Next, Gu Jin's figure flashed in the air on the sea, and the targets he chose to attack were all intermediate beasts, because of his high military merit. In addition, he wanted to see which seafood was more delicious. This salmon is good, tuna is good, lobster is good, and the king looks delicious. The clear blue sea water was dyed red by blood. Compared with the low-end battlefield on Gu Jin's side, the high-end combat power in the distant sea ended faster, and the huge sea beast corpses as big as hills floated on the sea. The 3 forks of the fisherman broke, and the corpses were separated. The figure standing in the void left quietly as when he came, and the garrison began to clean up the battlefield. Gu Jin and others also ended the battle and began to clean up the battlefield. The corpses of these sea beasts are also worth a lot of money. The army will collect them all, and when Gu Jin takes out the certificate, the value of the whole sea beast will be counted as military merit. After cleaning up the corpses, Gu Jin landed on the beach and looked at the calm sea, which was now blood red. A huge formation bloomed, and a large formation was activated on the seabed. All the blood of the beasts in the seawater was absorbed and gathered, and finally swallowed by the formation. Gu Jin's eyes were clear and he understood what was going on. The activation and operation of the formation naturally requires energy. If it is an ordinary formation, it can be satisfied by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, but for a strategic formation like the one just activated, the energy required for activation and operation cannot be satisfied by absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and additional output is required. That is the spirit stone. The formation in front of him swallowed the blood of sea beasts and obtained huge energy for storage. If the defense formation needs to be activated in the future, the stored energy can be consumed. It can reduce the consumption of spirit stones. There are many formations in the sea area. Gu Jin has analyzed a lot, but there is nothing suitable for him. It's not that these formations are of low value, but most of the formations here are defense formations suitable for deployment in the ocean, and they are super large formations. For him, apart from selling them to make money, there are really few places where they can be used. But he has no shortage of ways to make money now. Therefore, Gu Jin has memorized 2 formations after fighting. One is based on the idea of not losing money, and it is also slightly more useful to him. He doesn't know the name of the formation, but he knows the function and level. One is a defense formation that will appear after it is activated, like countless sharp lines interweaving. It belongs to a high-level formation. The tsunami of hundreds of meters at the beginning was cut and crushed by it. The other one will squeeze the air after activation to form a solid air wall. It is also a high-level formation. Gu Jin just saw that a tsunami of 100 meters high hit him without any surprise. This formation has another function, which is to detonate the air wall, which is amazingly powerful. Both formations are very good defensive high-level formations. If Gu Jin is willing to sell them, even the noble families will come to compete for them. Moreover, Gu Jin also saw many formations that were not activated. Obviously, the level of this invasion was not enough to use them. They were higher-level formations. The sea beasts were cleared, and soldiers came to count their military merits. Gu Jin saw the people of the law enforcement army going with them to avoid falsification of military merits. Gu Jin handed over his credentials for inspection, and the soldiers who counted and the law enforcement army couldn't help but look at him. In their opinion, the young man with a casual smile in front of them was only at the top level of chi cultivation, but he could kill so many mid-level beasts. This is something that many practitioners in the Chingu realm cannot do. At least he is a genius of the amazing level. The two had a judgment in their hearts, but they did not delay. After counting Gu Jin, they would count the next one. Military merits will be recorded directly, and Gu Jin can query them through the spiritual brain. Opening the spiritual brain, Gu Jin found that the efficiency of the army was really high. The military merits were updated just after the counting was completed. He had performed a patrol mission before and gained 40 points of military merits, but now, his merits have been updated to 1,540 points. There are also clear lists. Participation has 300 points of military merits, and each killing of a mid-level beast will gain 100 points of military merits. Gu Jin killed a total of 12 beasts. He couldn't help but think of the rewards of the academy. The rewards of the trial are said to be a little special and will be issued to him later. He also has the most spiritual crystals in the secret realm, Zhao Hao Hao, but the rewards of others have been issued, and his is still the same. The reward is special and will be issued later. But there is still no sound. Put away the spiritual brain, return to the land defense line, and find GCC. It's good that you're fine. GCC came to Gu Jin and breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that Gu Jin was intact and smiling. Let's go back. I just picked a lot of fresh ingredients. We'll have a seafood dinner tonight. Gu Jin naturally took GCC's hand and left the defense line, talking about the rich ingredients he had harvested. GCC glanced at him holding her hand, and saw that he was still talking about the ingredients, so she rolled her eyes at him unhappily. Back at the coffee shop, it was still open without GCC, and several employees were serving customers, but the business was obviously not as good as when GCC was there. Many people who came to see her beauty left without staying for long.